It's very important to prepare before a storm gets here. That's not the time to start making a plan. Right now is the time to know what your risk is, what your plans are for your family, how to stay informed, and how to get involved and volunteer so that you can help your community before the storm gets here. Take preparedness seriously, as in these past couple years, we never know how a disaster will evolve. If you wait till the last minute, that's when everybody's in there wanting to get those last little bit of supplies. Take your time and making sure that you have all the exact items that you need to put in your emergency kit that should be able to support you for up to at least 7 days. It's important to know your evacuation zone. If we get into a situation where a decision has to be made that you're in danger from the surge coming in that's created by a storm event, that you know when your zone is called that it's time for you to go. Preparedness, preparedness, preparedness. You never know what the hazard is going to be, what the event is going to be, but if you take those basic steps that we talked about, it can apply to any hazard that impacts Hillsborough County, and your family will stay safe.
right, thank you. We're going to call the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 11th meeting of the Hillsborough County Transportation Planning Organization. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And I know it's not on the agenda, but I think it would be appropriate if we would take a moment of silence in remembrance of those who lost their lives in the attacks 23 years ago. So if you would please join me in that. Thank you very much. Gail, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Myers is excused. Mayor Ross?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Wastel?
Here.
Commissioner Cohen is also excused. Commissioner Kemp? Councilmember Clendenin?
Here.
Councilmember Hurtak?
Here virtually.
Councilmember Maniscalco? Here. Mayor Kilton?
Here.
Board Member Rendon? Charles Klug?
Here.
Gina Dew? Here. Bob Frey?
Here.
Planning Commissioner Joseph?
Here.
We do have an in-person quorum.
Thank you, Gail. I would like to share with you a note here from Commissioner Myers. It says, please ensure information regarding my attendance is read into the minutes of the meeting. Due to another commitment, I will not be available to attend the meeting on Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. Good. So has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from our previous meeting? And if so, is there a motion? Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. The minutes are adopted. Next, we have committee reports and advance comments. We have Rick Fernandez, our CAC chair. I believe, Mr. Fernandez, you are recognized. Good morning, sir.
Just a point of order, are we skipping public comment? That usually comes before.
You're right. Thank you very much. But
Sure.
you are signed up for public comment also. Would you like to be recognized for public comment?
Thank you, I appreciate the
And
courtesy.
thank you for straightening the chair out there, Mr. Fernandez.
I can use straightening out often, so not to worry. Okay, public comment. My name is Rick Fernandez. I think the mic is on. I'm here appearing today as president of the Tampa Heights Civic Association, as well as in my own capacity individually as a citizen and resident of Tampa Heights. My issue is the capacity increases on I-275 north of Hillsborough. Again, I will tell you about two meetings attended since our last visit together. The first was Commissioner Wastel's town hall meeting last month. Very interesting, well done. I learned during that meeting that emergency evacuation is a concern, a key concern, in forming his capacity project motion back in June. Following that meeting, I ambled back to the back of the room where there were several services available to us by table, and emergency management had a table. I walked away with a glossy disaster preparedness guide. And on pages 7 and 9, interesting language. Page 7, when creating an evacuation plan to evacuate tens of miles instead of hundreds of miles. At page 9, hurricane season spawns lots of myths and disinformation. A myth, get away as far away as possible from the storm's projected path, versus fact, go to a safe location where your family can ride out the storm. Usually evacuating hundreds of miles away is unnecessary. You are allegedly, and I believe, leaders in the transportation space in this community. You are counter-programming your own emergency management professionals. Consider the message you are communicating to the public by committing over $200 million to this capacity project. It's sure not a message to stay close to home in a safe structure. The second meeting, it seems I'm out of time. The second meeting was the Planning Commission meeting yesterday. I was very disappointed, or Monday. I was extremely disappointed by the result. We were essentially discounted as misinformed. I would take issue with that. There were some items of misinformation that were communicated, but they came from the dais. The first was that the project in question, north of Hillsborough, was just a one-lane addition. That's wrong. The only project specs I've seen going back several years is 2 lanes, one north, one south. The other misinformation is that there will be no widening of the right-of-way. Well, depends on what that means. We don't know if DOT might be widening the infrastructure, the footprint, and still staying within the existing right-of-way. I've asked several people from DOT and from TPO staff. They don't know. That's what happened in Tampa Heights. They told us, don't worry, no right-of-way problems. We're not taking anything addition. Next thing you know, our walls are being earmarked for movement 50 feet. So we don't know what we don't know yet, and yet we have people approving this project. Please strike it from the LRTP, strike it from the tip. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. So if you'd like to stay up, you're next on committee reports. I have no other public comments. People signed up.
I think there's at least one.
Okay. He's not signed up, but he's here, so. Okay, so you're recognized. We need your, please state your name for the record.
Jason Marlowe, sir. Good morning. Lately, I hear a lot about how my community members in the Heights are misinformed. And I want to say it's truly shocking to me how cavalier and condescending folks can be with other folks' life experiences. We're not an amorphous group of others. We're real people. We live here. It's the air that we breathe. It's the neighborhood that we live in. For you, this is temporary. It's a board. For us, it's our community. It's our neighborhood. It's where we raise our families. Perhaps while we're adding lanes, we should consider building additional ones through Carrollwood or Town and Country. I have concepts of a plan. How about we build a new highway through Temple Terrace or Plant City, to help with evacuation? Lastly, I want to say, as Rick mentioned, how laughable it is that the genesis for this $500 million boondoggle is hurricane evacuation. There's a reason why, again, as Rick mentioned, neither Hillsborough County nor the city of Tampa identified the need for this widening in their emergency management proposals. If the concern was genuinely related to evacuation, this $500 million could be far better allocated towards improving the CSX lines, as you guys just discussed recently. Know that the Heights is paying attention, and rest assured that while your tenure on this board is temporary, our engagement on this issue is permanent. We will outlast you. The Heights remembers.
Very good. Are there other members of the public? No, okay. All right, next item is committee reports, and Mr. Fernandez is now here as the chair of our CAC. Mr. Fernandez, welcome back.
Thank you. Wearing my other hat. I appreciate it. Again, for the record, my name is Rick Fernandez. I have the privilege of chairing your Citizens Advisory Committee. This is the report of our meeting results September 4 of 2024, otherwise known the day of the flood. That's the day that we were in 4 to 5 inches worth of water trying to cross the street from the parking garage. And I mention that because we actually managed to have a quorum that night, people physically in the room that suffered through that cloudburst. So I want to publicly say a big thank you to everyone that braved the elements to attend in person. It was important to our being able to conduct our action item business. There were 3 action items presented to the CAC that night. I believe all 3 of them are on your agenda today. The first was an overview of Access 2050, LRTP, and open public comment. 2 was the 2024 roll forward TIP amendment, and 3 was the SIS cost feasible plan update and letter of comment. Gina Torres of TPO staff and Jennifer Musselman of Kittleson introduced the overview of Access 2050 and the open public comment item. This is the culmination of all the previous efforts to develop the Access 2050 LRTP. Ms. Musselman, who I see here in the gallery today, I'm sure will be presenting to you in a few minutes, presented on how the draft was developed and what is included in it at a high level. CAC members asked questions about how the specific projects about how the performance outcomes were developed for Smart Cities and Vision Zero, and about some of the specific projects included in the draft plan. TPO staff provided a copy of what will be included in the advertisement and shared how people may provide comments during the public comment period. The CAC motion to recommend acceptance of the draft Access 2050 LRTP to the TPO board and to open the 30-day comment period passed, receiving 5 affirmative votes and 2 no votes. TPO staff next presented the second action item, which was the 2024 roll forward tip amendment. Staff reviewed what the roll forward tip amendment is and what projects are included. CAC members asked for clarification on the process, which was provided, and had questions on specific projects such as the signal at 22nd Avenue and the Selman Expressway. The CAC motion to recommend acceptance of the roll forward amendments for the fiscal year 25 through 29 tip passed 7-0. Finally, among the action items, TPO staff presented the SIS cost feasible plan update and letter of comment. The CAC discussed the letter of comment and reference to transit on I-275 in detail, including regional rapid transit, a project that was discussed several years ago, and the BRT on parallel corridors that is being considered in Access 2050. CAC members asked questions about what is being requested, the width of lanes and logistics of transit on the interstate. The CAC motion recommending approval of the TPO letter of comment on the 2035-2050 SIS cost feasible plan received 6 yeses and 1 no vote. As part of unfinished business and new business, the CAC discussed the website that was mentioned by me here last month, Build Infrastructure, Not Political Agendas. That's ROADS, roads are not for politics.com, and that any comments on the website could be directed to the Florida Department of Transportation Central Office in Tallahassee. We had asked for a representative of District 7 to come to the meeting to explain to us the meaning of this particular URL, the site that is being managed by FDOT and Secretary Perdue specifically, but we were told nobody at District 7 could come and speak to that issue. CAC considered comments from members, including this email, which was submitted by an absent member who has given me specific permission and requested that I read it to you. That's Ed Merjerski, who is the THEA representative on our CAC, has been there as long as I have, 2017. Quote, I would appreciate this statement be read into the discussion. September 4th is my birthday. I will be missing the September meeting. If I were there, I would express my outrage at the Roads Not Politics website. It harkens back to the way transportation was done in the 1950s with all its negative consequences. In addition to demeaning efforts to encourage the use of public transportation, it heralds the wonders of the internal combustion engine and marginalizes the importance of equity. In 40 years of working with Florida DOT, I have never known FDOT to show this type of partisan politics. I have spoken with District 7 Secretary Gwynn about this, and he noted that he had nothing to do with it, and when people ask, he refers them to the FDOT Central Office. That ends my report. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Otherwise, respectfully submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. And before you sit down, if you would, please, on behalf of the board, extend our gratitude to you and your committee members for weathering that storm and conducting the business of the committee. I know they're citizen volunteers, and that shows a remarkable dedication, so thank you.
Thanks. Maybe there's money in the budget for, umbrellas or something. Yeah, that would be great. All right, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Harmony McGee from TPO staff. Good morning.
Good morning. Regarding today's action items, both the Technical Advisory and Citizen Advisory Committees recommended forwarding the overview of the Access 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan to the TPO Board for acceptance and to open the 30-day comment period. The Livable Roadways and Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committees will receive this item as a status report at their upcoming meetings. The Technical Advisory and Citizen Advisory Committees also recommended the 2024 Roll Forward Tip Amendment for approval by the TPO Board. Additionally, the Technical Advisory and Citizen Advisory Committees recommended approval of the TPO Letter of Comment on the 2025 to 2050 SIS Cost Feasible Plan for transmittal to the Federal Department of Transportation. Comments from community members were received via email and social media. We have received several emails expressing the two following points. Members of the community do not support the road widening of I-275 due to the negative impacts it will have, such as environmental harm, exasperated traffic, and reduced property value in surrounding areas. It was explained that rather than focusing on road widening for capacity, community members would like to see a prioritization of other transportation alternatives, such as encouraging carpooling, investing in public transit, and improving bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Members of the community are not also communicated that they are not in support of the current structure of the TPO and would like to amend the bylaws to limit the voting power of non-elected officials. They believe this amendment would encourage greater integrity in the voting process by ensuring voting members are accountable to the communities being impacted. The community members who provided this input are listed as follows: Hillary Richard, Janice Martin, Danielle Ferrari, Kimberly Becking, Rebecca Gleason, Rebecca Sims, and Samantha Rios. Joshua Raymond also emailed regarding the widening of I-275. He expressed his objection to this project and cited impacts such as increased pollution and greater levels of noise. He stated that he would like to see a prioritization of mass transportation, such as trains, instead of pursuing road widening as a solution. We also heard specifically from Michelle Kriz, who requested that the capacity language be removed from the TIP document related to I-275 north of Hillsborough Ave to Beers. Nina Mabelow emailed requesting that TPO staff ensure that the Tampa Multimodal Network and Safety Improvement Project is included in the LRTP and the TIP. TPO staff responded, ensuring her that this information was included in the LRTP under the Real Choices When Not Driving funding programs, and it's also included in the TIP as an appendix. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. McGee. Next, we move into action items, and we have first item is an overview of Access 2050 LRTP and the open public comment period. And Jennifer Musselman from Kittleson and Associates is here to present.
Good morning, TPO board members. Johnny Wong, your executive director. In just a moment, I'll invite Jennifer to come and prepare and provide the overview of the LRTP. The presentation that you're about to see represents the culmination of more than 3 years of robust quantitative and qualitative analysis, working with the community to explore the options and test their reactions to the proposed projects, as well as highly technical modeling work, has resulted in us being able to tell you what the needs are related to safety, infrastructure maintenance, trails, and you name it. We've also worked with our consultants to prepare cost estimates showing what it will take to move the needle in each one of these performance areas. What Jennifer will conclude with and the recommended funding scenario that we're offering to you, we believe will maximize our investments and truly move the needle on the performance metrics that are most important to this county and begin addressing the most urgent needs. So without any further ado, Jennifer Musselman of Kittleson Associates.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Welcome.
Good morning, and thank you, Johnny, for the introduction. Very excited to share with you today, as Johnny mentioned, what's been years in the making to get to the draft long-range transportation plan, Access 2050. Access 2050 followed a collaborative process that followed all state and federal regulations to ultimately get to a cost-feasible plan. It balanced a data-driven needs assessment with extensive community outreach to make sure we're capturing the voices in the community. With today's presentation, as Johnny mentioned, we'll be asking you all to open the 30-day comment period and with the ultimate adoption date in October. The over 4,500 surveys that were received as part of the outreach are a big testament to the investment of TPO staff time to make sure that they were hearing from folks throughout the community. As you can see, almost 90% of survey takers were either Hillsborough County residents or employees, so we are hearing directly from the folks that are most impacted by this plan. TPO staff attended 45 community events, gave an additional 11 presentations, rode 5 different transit routes, and visited 3 transit shelters to reach as many people as possible. The stars on the map here show all of the different events and how they are spread out in every corner of the county, and the colors represent the surveys received. So the orange and purple color indicate a higher number of surveys, with the green indicating a lower number of surveys in those zip codes. The top 3 priorities we heard from the community and from the survey. The first were newer, faster transit. The second is reduced traffic jams. And the third is to maintain our roads and bridges in a state of good repair. And we'll share how those results fed into the creation of the cost-feasible plan in a few slides. Some of these slides you saw in August, so they should look familiar. But many different aspects went into creating the cost-feasible plan, starting with the survey input I mentioned. TPO staff also went through a forecasting effort to see how many people and jobs would be in Hillsborough County in the year 2050. They participated in an environmental consultation workshop to try to understand the environmental impacts of some of the projects proposed in the plan. And then in the following slides, I'll talk through the needs assessments and the revenue forecasts. The needs assessment was done in 5 major program areas, which are very similar to how the 2045 long-range plan was put together. The first is smart cities, which focuses on intersection improvements and technology improvements to ease congestion. The second is state of good repair and resilience, which focuses on maintaining our bridges, roads, stormwater infrastructure, and transit fleets. The third is Vision Zero, which is ultimately to help address safety on our streets and get to 0 fatalities and serious injuries on Hillsborough County roads. The fourth is real choices when not driving, which includes expanding bus service and our trail network. And then the last is major projects, which includes road widenings, new or modified interstate interchanges, and fixed guideway transit. Based on input received from the public, committees, and this board, the revenue forecasts are based on a renewal of existing taxes, with the exception of the second local option fuel tax. With 4 taxes up for renewal during the LRTP period, it did not seem reasonable that all 4 would get renewed, so the second local option fuel tax was removed from the revenue forecast to create a little bit of a conservative estimate. And we are expecting about $18 billion to come to the TPO area over the 20-year LRTP period. Again, based on input from the public committees in this board, the revenues are allocated largely based on current trend spending. Worth noting that FDOT does receive a good chunk of that revenue, so that's why you're seeing a large portion of revenue towards major projects in green. Local revenues are mostly allocated towards good repair and resilience, and real choices when not driving, reflecting the priorities that we heard in the survey. Well, $18 billion sounds like a lot of money, and I know TPO staff and this board are dedicated to making sure that we make best use of every dollar in the plan. The plan did ultimately identify nearly $50 billion in needs across the county. So we'll have to continue to be creative with our planning partners and look for grant opportunities to help address all of the needs identified in the plan. Now I'll share what was ultimately included in this draft cost feasible plan. It is very similar to what you saw in August, so I won't go through everything in detail, but we'll focus on what has changed since you saw it last. So the first set of projects are the strategic intermodal system projects. The cost feasible projects have not changed since you saw it in August, but based on the action taken by the board, the I-75 at Fort Hamer interchange was added to the unfunded needs list to provide some flexibility to evaluate that in the future. The non-CIS state roadways, again, remained unchanged from what you saw in August and includes several widenings across the county. There was one change to the local roadways cost feasible projects, and that was including Lithia Pinecrest into the cost feasible plan. So you can see that highlighted here on the map in blue. And the fixed guideway transit projects remain unchanged with the arterial bus rapid transit from downtown to the University of South Florida included in the cost feasible plan. With the other four programs expecting to see a lot of benefit across the county, an almost 50% reduction in peak hour delay with the Smart Cities program, the ability to maintain our roads and bridges in a good state, a 55% reduction in bicycle and pedestrian crashes, and 35% reduction in total crashes in the Vision Zero program, an addition of 43 miles to our trail network, and then the ability to provide bus service at least every 30 minutes to 65% of county residents. So that concludes the overview of what is included in Access 2050. Today's recommended action is to accept the draft and open the 30-day comment period. Myself, along with TPO staff in the room, are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Musselman. Board members, are there questions? Commissioner?
Can you point to a page in the report where I can see a breakout of this huge $47 billion suggested needs? Just so I can find it. I couldn't find it, so I'm assuming that's in there since that's just such a substantial number. I'm assuming that we're substantiating it to people and not just throwing it out there.
Yes, it's provided in an appendix for the cost feasible plan, and we can provide the exact page number to you after the meeting.
Okay, and then will it also show a breakout of the revenue sources for the $18 billion you're expecting to come in? Like, will I be able to see which revenue sources you're getting to that number in?
Yes, we can share that page as well.
Cool, thank you.
Other questions, board members? Motion is second. Any discussion of the motion? Gail, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Wastel,
Yes.
Councilmember Clendenin. Yes. Councilmember Maniscalco. Councilmember Hurtak.
Yes.
Mayor Kilton. Yes. Board Member Rendon.
Yes.
Charles Klug.
Yes.
Gina Du.
Yes.
Bob Fry. Yes. Planning Commissioner Joseph. Yes. The motion passes 12-0.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Ms. Musselman. Next item is the 2024 Roll Forward Tip Amendment, and Elizabeth Watkins is here to explain. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Elizabeth Watkins, TPO staff. I'm here today to give you a brief presentation on the 2024 Transportation Improvement Program Roll Forward Amendment. So a few key points about this amendment. This is an annual routine amendment that comes before you every year, essentially to ensure the consistency between the FDOT work program and the Transportation Improvement Program. There are no surprise projects in this list. They've all been included in previous transportation improvement programs. Just to quickly illustrate the importance between the TIP and the FDOT work program, the TIP is a 5-year program of projects, which includes federally funded and regionally significant projects, and the vast majority of those are sourced from the FDOT work program. And of course, there are some timing differences. So the TIP is adopted in June, the work program is adopted in July, but by October 1, both documents need to be in sync to ensure that there's no project delays. So this amendment ensures that both documents are consistent with each other. There are 23 projects in this amendment. About half are transit, 2 resurfacing, 1 safety, 1 capacity, 1 signalization, and 8 other drainage improvements, wetland mitigation, landscaping. So for the transit projects, the first 2 are the annual formula funds that HART receives to support operations as well as capital expenses, which includes replacing some of their fleet or updating equipment. There's a $1 million grant from the state to help HART have a new roof coating on their heavy maintenance facility. And then the last 3 on this list are the discretionary grants that HART has been successful in winning over the years. The first being the Transit-Oriented Development Grant, Human Trafficking Innovations in Transit Public Safety Grant, and finally the Passenger Ferry Grant. So these are all rolling over so that our partners can still have access to these dollars. Just to break up the tables, I wanted to provide a recent illustration of the heavy maintenance facility schematic, which is one of the top priorities for HART. What they're envisioning is to have a new heavy maintenance facility on their existing site on 21st, which would have improved circulation, fix the major flooding needs in their facility, and a variety of other improvements that are needed. The last batch of transit projects are focused on bus stops. HART has a basic transit infrastructure program that oversees the design and construction of their bus stops and shelters. I believe there's just south of 3,000 stops throughout the Hillsborough County, so many, many needs. And they have a sophisticated program to assess each of those stops at least every 2 years, and a prioritization process to fix ADA improvements, put shelters where they're needed, and other improvements. So there's 4 grants, about $20 million to continue that good work. And these are just 2 illustrations of some recent improvements that HART has done. So at Rome and Hillsborough, some curb work as well as an ADA ramp was installed. And then at 30th and Hillsborough, they installed a new shelter. There's 1 capacity project in this amendment, and that's to add 2 express lanes in each direction on I-4 from the Selman Connector to east of Branch Forbes Road. This is Section 8 of the TB Next program, again, illustrating that. And this is a typical cross-section where you'll see 6 general purpose lanes and then 4 express lanes, and then the median intends to preserve a future rail corridor. There are 2 resurfacing projects in the city of Tampa, Kennedy Boulevard, as well as Washington Street, both to upgrade to resurface the roads. Moving to the safety project, there is a project to install new gates and signals at Wiggins Road South, that rail crossing, which is east of Plant City, but west of the county line, and that will install this new gate and have LED lights to ensure safety at that crossing. There's 1 signalization project, 22nd Avenue at Selman Expressway intersection. This signal was already installed, but due to some funding changes and project closeout, it needs to remain in the work program and the TIP, but it's good news that the project's already been done, but it still needs to remain for project closeout purposes. And then lastly is that laundry list of other activities that aren't traditionally surface transportation, some wetland mitigation, drainage improvements, a project at the port at Hooker's Point, the Tampa International Taxiway B, and then the Henry Canal for drainage purposes. We followed our public participation procedure. So 3 weeks ago, we posted a press release, social media post, and web page illustrating these projects. So staff's recommendation for you to consider today is to approve by roll call vote the 2024 roll forward amendments to the fiscal year 25-29 Transportation Improvement Program. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Watkins. Board members, other questions? I do have one. Can you go back to one of the earliest slides concerning Hart? I know this is a, that one, yeah. I don't see anybody here from Hart. I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but a little below halfway down, Hart Transit Oriented Development Grant, almost $1.4 million to study the location of bus stops on Florida Avenue?
So we do have someone online, Jesus, if you're on, or otherwise I can try to address.
I know that's peanuts compared to some of the,
Yeah.
but it's just almost $1.5 million to talk about the location of bus stops on one road.
Well,
It seems-
it's more than that. It
Okay.
is a land use study. So it's a partnership between Hart, City of Tampa, and the Planning Commission to do some land use modeling. The stations, I think, are largely identified, but that money will be used for a lot of public engagement and then I think land development code writing and a lot of work rather than just station siting is my understanding.
Okay, I'll let it go, but that just seems like, anyway, okay. Commissioner Wustel.
What's the funding source for the study? Is it a federal grant?
It is.
Okay.
Good. Other questions? Is there a motion? Move for approval. Is there a second? Second. All right. Yeah, would you please call the vote?
Mayor Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Wastel,
Yes.
Councilmember Clendenin,
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtak,
Yes.
Councilmember Maniscalco, Mayor Kilton, Board Member Rendon,
Yes.
Charles Klug, Gina Dew, Bob Fry, Planning Commissioner Joseph. The motion passes 12-0.
Very good. Thank you very much, Gil. And thank you, Elizabeth. Next up is an SIS cost feasible plan update and a letter of comment. FDOT Representative Vishaka Shiva Raman is here. TPO staff? Well, I guess she's not. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Brian Hunter with the Florida Department of Transportation. Today I'm just going to give a brief update on the Strategic Intermodal System Cost Feasible Plan. So the Strategic Intermodal System is the highest priority roadway and facilities within the state of Florida. So the ones that are most responsible for moving people and goods. So in Hillsborough County, you can think of it as I-275, I-75, I-4, the Crosstown Expressway, Gandy from the Crosstown over the bridge, State Road 60 from basically downtown, or from the end of the Crosstown out to Polk County, Port Tampa Bay's facilities, Tampa International Airport, the CSX Intermodal Yard, as well as Union Station. And so, can we bring up the presentation? All right, perfect. So the Strategic Intermodal System, we fund that in 4 different phases. The first, basically how we do it is we look at what are all the needs on the entire network. Then we look at what is actually feasible to be funded in the next 25 years. So that's the cost feasible plan, which I'm here talking about today. And then the other 2, the first 5-year and the second 5-year, are those ones we're going to hit within the first and second 5 years. And so the SIS cost feasible plan was approved by FDOT's executive board a couple months ago. And I'm just going to go over briefly some of how we got there and then some of the projects. So the projects that are included in this are ones that were in the cost feasible plan last time, but they may not have gotten moved up yet into the first or second 5 years. We also add some of those projects that were in our unfunded needs list the last time, move them into the cost feasible since we moved other projects out. And then we work with the MPOs, TPOs, cities, counties to utilize their priority lists and their LRTPs to identify some additional projects. And this is a visual representation of the projects that are included in the District 7 cost feasible plan. So as you can see, there's a number of interstate projects as well as some interchange projects. Now, the cost feasible plan does not include modal projects. So if it's at Port Tampa Bay or the airport, it will not be included in this list because roadways typically have a much longer, farther out planning horizon than those agencies are able to do because they have much more immediate needs once they are identified. And then here's the list. It's really hard to read on this screen, so I hope it was able to get slid into your presentation so you can read what they are. But the different colors identify the different 5-year windows that we anticipate the project being completed in that particular phase. And then our next step will be to update the multimodal unfunded needs plan. Sometime in the end of this year, the beginning of next year, we'll be reaching out to the MPOs to start identifying those projects, see what needs to get added to that multimodal unfunded needs plan, and then using the modal plans that the department creates, as well as LRTPs and priority lists from the MPOs, that will be the next step, and we will be coordinating with the MPOs to do that. And then this is the contact information for our District 7 Strategic Intermodal System Coordinator, Lori Kent. She wasn't able to be here today, but I'll be more than happy to take any questions, comments, anything.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Board members, other questions? Councilmember Clendenin.
I don't know if it's germane to this discussion, but when we mentioned multimodal, what is the status from FDOT's perspective of that proposed multimodal center off of Cypress and by the airport? Because I keep hearing different rumors of where we are with that.
So we certainly, we own the property, and we've had discussions with a variety of parties to look at potential opportunities for development of the property. As you know, the DoubleTree is gone now.
Right.
It is going to be used partially for staging during the construction of the West Shore interchange. The biggest thing we're waiting to figure out, quite honestly, is the vision for it, if you would, was going to be that it was going to be some sort of a development, could be a public-private partnership, could be some other form of development that would include a multimodal facility within it. So it would be much more than just a multimodal facility. Perhaps the first 3 floors could be some sort of, the problem is we don't know at this point what mode to accommodate. We don't know if it's going to be light rail. We don't know if it's going to be bus. We don't know. We don't have the connections where it's coming to and from at this point. So we're kind of waiting until we get to a better place where we can determine what do we need to accommodate within that site before we start doing anything and then find out later that, well, that wasn't the mode we were going to accommodate.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I was curious because obviously you're right. Until we pin down these corridors and we actually know what type of transit we're going to use. And I kept hearing that, and I keep hearing different things from different people, so it's good to hear what that message. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clendenin. Any other questions, board members? If not, is there a motion?
Chair, if I may, so the action item is actually TPO staff's letter of comment that we prepared in response to the projects in the SIS cost feasible plan. So if you'll allow Vishaka, I think she can summarize our letter to you all.
Okay.
Before we solicit the motions.
Very good.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, TPO board members. This is Vishaka Shivaraman, TPO staff. So my duty today is to present to you the letter of comment. As you can see that the SIS cost feasible plan was approved back in July, and staff reviewed the plan. So we would like to present the letter of comment. We reviewed the plan, and we made sure that it was consistent with the current TIP and the 2045 long-range transportation plan, and also that it meets the Hillsborough County's goals and needs. In this letter, you will find some projects that are of high priority for the TPO, for which staff have made recommendations and advised FDOT to move them faster. For some projects that were in close vicinity of other major projects and that are near SIS corridors, TPO staff recommends coordination with the corresponding partner agencies. In addition, the SIS cost feasible plan was also presented to the TPO's advisory committees back in last month for their comments and recommendations, and they have been included in the letter. The TPO comment will be transmitted to the FDOT for their record keeping and they will be addressed as they develop the plan for the next cycle. I'm going to highlight some of the comments that the TPO staff have made. The first project that I would like to mention is the I-275 from north of Hillsborough Avenue to Bears Avenue, and this is found in the page 1 of the letter. I'm going to read the entire comment. This is a major north-south corridor that serves as a critical evacuation route for populations within and south of the Hillsborough County, as well as access to job centers for workers across the Tampa Bay region. But it is also impacted by traffic congestion from single occupancy vehicles and freight providers. To advance our shared goals of multimodal transportation, TPO staff requests that District 7, the Hillsborough TPO, and our mutual partners once again study the feasibility for fixed guideway transit operating within the corridor. As recently as 2021, 2 of the 3 TMAs had requested support for regional rapid transport operating within the 275 corridor, and this project presents a valuable opportunity to revisit that concept. A second transit project is also currently advancing, which will require coordination between HART and the district. TPO staff will be recommending that the Florida Avenue, Tampa Avenue bus rapid transit project also be included in the Access 2050 LRTP. As I-275 primarily provides connectivity for longer distance commuters and the arterials serve more localized trip, this is an obvious synergy and the complementary function between these corridors. We request that the district consider providing resources for HART to develop the BRT project and accelerate implementation of this important alternate to driving. Please also note that this highway widening project is currently included in the 2045 Long-Range Transportation Plan and is a high priority project. It's also in the priority list, number 93 on the current tip, but it's also not currently funded for design and construction. This project had previously been described as including sound wall installations and safety countermeasures, and while the description has since been modified, TPO staff requests that District 7 include both safety countermeasures and sound walls consistent with the northern segments of this corridor. That's the first project. Similarly, there were several other projects that we would like to get additional guidance which are for the implementation of managed lanes. These projects are as follows: I-275 from north of Howard Avenue to north of Hillsborough River, State Road 60 from Spruce Street, Tampa International Interchange to north of Memorial Highway, I-4 managed lanes on Selman connector to Branch Forbes, east of Branch Forbes to Polk County Line Road. Although this project provides important connection to job clusters, TPO has concerns about adding new tolls on the interstate highway corridor supported with public dollars. In June of 2022, district staff committed to the TPO board that a public meeting will be held to establish a policy position on the lane management strategy before design of any managed lanes facilities. We request that District 7 staff continue to coordinate with the TPO so that we can meaningfully consider the state of technology, public opinion, and lane management strategies that are appropriate to the particular project. The next set of projects that you will find in the comment are interchange modifications at Bears Avenue, Bush Boulevard, Fowler, and Fletcher. As you know, that these interchanges have been identified in our Vision Zero action plan as some of the ones with the highest crashes, and they rank among the most dangerous arterial roadways in the county. We recommend prioritizing the design of treatments located at the on and off ramps to reduce conflict point and also reduce crashes. Also note that Bush Boulevard ramps interchange may benefit from additional detection technology due to a history of numerous high-profile wrong-way collisions. The other interchange modifications are west of I-75, northbound off-ramp to East Mango Avenue, McIntosh Road, etc., which could benefit from having a diverging diamond interchange, as they have been proven to be effective in managing congestion and reducing the number of conflict points. Thus, it mitigates crashes. For the following projects, staff recommends coordination with their concerned agency. The first project is I-75 at Gibsonton Drive. This project has no construction funding, But staff recommends coordination with the Hillsborough County widening project at Gibsonton Drive from US 301 to Fernhill Drive, and the intersection improvement project at Fernhill Drive, which will be completed, anticipated to be completed in 2025. The next project is US 41 from south of Pendola Point to Causeway Boulevard. This project is also on our priority list and supports goods movement, and it's also a minor job cluster. This would need further coordination with the CSX grade separation project in that on US 41 south of 50th Street. The next project that requires coordination is the Gandy Bridge connection. As you all know, that Gandy Bridge has been identified as a facility vulnerable for storm, and the design should consider this. The project also needs to be coordinated with TIA and due to their proposed projects on Selman. The other projects that are on near assist corridor that the TPO would request FDOT to consider for the future are as follows. These projects fall into one of our buckets, namely Vision Zero, Smart Cities for travel time reliability, and State of Good Repair and Resilience. These projects, the first set of projects under safety, we would like to recognize Veterans Expressway between Waters and Hillsborough, and State Road 60 from Falconburg to Dover Road as some of the segments, and some segments on I-275 and I-4, which are among the worst, and they are also identified in our Vision Zero action plan. TPO staff would recommend continued collaboration with FDOT as they make progress on these projects towards fulfilling Vision Zero goals. For projects under Smart Cities, the TPO would like FDOT to consider the following segments for inclusion among a list of priority projects. They rank among the least reliable for travel time reliability. The projects are I-4 between McIntosh and Forbes Road, I-275 from downtown to West Shore Interchange, State Road 60 from I-75 Interchange to Dover Road, parts of US 301 from I-75 to Fishhawk, and I-75 from State Road 60 to Bloomingdale. For the projects that are vulnerable to sea level rise, storm surge, and inland flooding, these are of critical concerns in our region. These projects have also been identified under the State of Good Repair and Future and Resilience Needs Assessment. These projects are either, some of them are in the vicinity of another CIS corridor. They are Hillsborough Avenue from Racetrack Road to SR 589, West Shore Boulevard from Prescott Lane to Euclid Avenue, Madison Avenue between US 41 and US 301, and Columbus Drive from Fremont Avenue to Rome Avenue. With this, I would like to extend thanks on behalf of the TPO staff to the FDOT for providing us an opportunity to comment on the CIS cost feasible plan that was approved and include us in all future collaboration efforts. The recommended action today would be to request you to approve the TPO's letter of comment for transmittal to the FDOT on the 2035 to 2050 CIS cost feasible plan.
Thank you very much. Dr. Wong.
TPO board members, late yesterday afternoon, it was brought to our attention that the letter did not adequately clarify that two sentences in the letter are the positions of TPO staff and not of the full board. If you're following along in your packet, these sentences appear on pages 2 and 3 of the letter, or 48 and 49 of the PDF, and they're with respect to our concerns about utilizing public funds to support a user-based fee, namely tolled facilities. That has not been the position of the board. What we intended to communicate was that DOT previously agreed to holding a number of public workshops with this board and with members of the public to decide what the lane management strategy will be prior to implementation. I think we conveyed that point adequately without adding the sentence about our concerns about using public dollars. And so if it's the board's desire, we could either remove that sentence entirely or clarify that it's TPO staff.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Board members, are there questions about the letter of comment?
I do.
Commissioner?
On the first item, it asks FDOT to revisit the study of the Hillsborough Avenue to south of Bears Avenue for regional rapid transit, BRT. I know there was a lot of different stories about an old TBX project, which did include, I believe, an additional lane, and now that's being taken out of this new project, right? This is not the old TBX?
No, so under, if you want to call it TBX, before we did the reevaluation of the EIS, there were express managed lanes on 275 north of the downtown interchange, and those were removed. So it was just made a general purpose lane as opposed to express lanes. The only other accommodation we've made was to put a wider shoulder on the road such that if in the future there was a desire to try and use transit along the 275 corridor, they could use bus on shoulder operations. But other than that, in the previous TBX project, in order to accommodate what was proposed, we would have had mainline right-of-way acquisition.
I see.
But with this new one, there's no right-of-way acquisition required.
Okay, that's what confused me. Do we know how much, then, since we're revisiting the study, how much have we already spent on studies for it? I'm just curious. I'm not opposed to it. I just want to know what the numbers are.
Commissioner, my recollection of this, I welcome any additional detail that can be provided, but the Regional Rapid Transit Study that I'm thinking of was funded by T-BARTA. I don't believe that TPO provided any funding for that study. Since T-BARTA disbanded, DOT has become the de facto steward of it. I believe that they've reached out to Hart PSTA to see if they would like to revisit that concept with the TMA MPOs, but so far no takers. What I was trying to convey in that comment is that the Pinellas and Pasco MPOs about 6 years ago, they did approve the Regional Rapid Transit Study, and we were prepared to make that a regional priority. However, the Hillsborough MPO did not support it. And I believe that some of our members had concerns about whether approving that study would lead to a widening through the segment of 275 north of downtown. Well, now that that widening project is moving forward, I'd like to revisit that concept with this board and understand if that's still your priority, or if you would like us to move that concept forward.
So we don't know how, so the study is just really up to FDOT's discretion, and if they have the money, and then they would spend the money.
Yes, Commissioner, the study already exists. Again, it was presented to the Hillsborough Board years ago. They did not approve it, but now that conditions have changed significantly through that corridor, I'm wondering if maybe the board's position has changed as well.
Okay. Yes.
So typically, a project like this would be would be proposed under a transit operator. And T-BARTA, at the time that the study was started, was seen as potentially being the operator of a multi-county transit system that would use a combination of express lanes on the interstate, and in areas where there was no express lanes, perhaps using bus on shoulder or some other type of accommodation within the limited access facility. And one of the benefits of that was that we could use federal and state monies for roads to build some of the infrastructure that would be required for the transit. In other words, the express lanes will be there because they can be used by cars and buses, and the shoulders we could do as incidental underneath a roadway project. We couldn't build stations, we couldn't build by rolling stock, that sort of thing. When T-BARTA was disbanded, rather than just let the study go and disappear, it was transferred to FDOT, and the thought would be if it emerges again, it would likely be sponsored by a transit agency that would ultimately operate the system.
And is FDOT supportive that it might be meaningful on their network of roads?
So we saw it as an option. So building a brand-new transit system on rail or a bus rapid transit system with its own dedicated lanes is quite expensive because of the infrastructure that you need. The thought was, we certainly think that regional transit is a good thing, and I think in the future there'll be a need for additional choices to get throughout the region. And this was kind of just a way to try to multi-use facilities that will already exist or could exist at a minimal cost. and then have a transit agency come in. In other words, if we were going to go for federal money, we would have to show the federal government that we would be getting a good return on the investment that we're making. Usually they look at the cost per rider. When we looked at, for instance, commuter rail, the cost per rider was going to be about $40 per dollar that you would get. And so if it was $40 per rider, they usually want you to be around $10 per rider or less to be seen as a viable project. With something like the regional rapid transit, you could probably get that down because a lot of the investment in infrastructure wouldn't be included in the cost of the transit project. It would be covered under a highway project. And so the cost would be more of the things that go specifically for transit, stations, rolling stock, things like that. So it was a way to try to make it that it might be more able to compete for federal funds. But the thing that we always run into is the federal government is never going to look at it unless there's a local contribution, typically at least 25% on the capital, and then a commitment to operate and maintain once it's built.
I see. Thank you for elaborating.
Any other questions, board members? Councilmember Clendenin.
Yeah, definitely, I appreciate the fact that you're pursuing that shoulder option for potentially, because that could be a potential option for BRT to get up to USF, so that's good. Question about the West Shore interchange, which kind of again parlays into this. Is opening Trask, is that out of the question now, or have you guys eliminated that from the plan?
No, we'll be reconnecting at 3 locations, Rio, Trask, and Occident. We'll all
So that's
have
still in the plan?
It's
Okay,
still in the
good.
plan.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Other questions, board members? Okay, thank you very much. So we do, if there's a motion, we do need to address the issue that Dr. Wong brought up about the 2 sentences. That can be included in the motion, or that can be discussed separately. It's up to the pleasure of the board. So is there a motion?
I would move to accept the letter with Dr. Wong's recommendations of making it clear that it's the staff position.
We have a motion and a second. Gail, would you please call the vote? So we have a motion of approval of the letter of comment, adopting Dr. Wong's recommendation that those 2 sentences be clarified to indicate that it's a TPO staff's recommendation, not necessarily the board's recommendation. Did I capture that correctly, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
And that was seconded by Commissioner Wastel.
Thank you.
Okay. And when you catch up with all that, would you please call the vote?
Mayor Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Wastel,
Yes.
Councilmember Clendenin,
Yes.
Councilmember Hurtak,
Yes.
Councilmember Maniscalco, Mayor Kilton, Board Member Rendon,
Yes.
Charles Klug, Gina Dew, Bob Fry, Planning Commissioner Joseph. The motion passes 12-0.
Thank you, Gail. All right, Dr. Wong, Executive Director's Report.
Yes, thank you, TPO board members. I'll be very quick. We're making record pace right now. Item A, 7A, the TMA meeting will be held on September 20th at Oldsmar City Hall, and at our TPO special meeting that we held earlier this month, this board successfully articulated its policy position about the role of cities on a merged board, which was to maintain autonomy over the allocation of our 11 seats. So that is the position that we'll be communicating to the Pinellas and Pasco TMA representatives on September 20th. If anyone's interested in viewing that meeting, we can provide a web link for you to watch it in real time. Item B, on Sunday, September 22nd, that is World Car Free Day, and TPO staff will be attending or participating in an event hosted by Walk by Tampa Bay. We're going to have a booth downtown near the Encore building, and our staff will be in attendance from 9 a.m. to roughly 2 p.m., and we hope that you stop by. We'll be providing materials to members of the public and talking a little bit about our clean air monitoring work. Item C, the Gulf Coast Safe Street Summit, which you've heard so much from us about. That date is approaching rather quickly. On October 9th, beginning at 10 a.m., there will be activities and mobile workshops as part of the week-long event. At 1 p.m. in Port Terminal 2, thank you to our partners at the port for making that space available. At 1 p.m., the keynote speaker, Gil Penalosa, who's famous for coming up with this concept of 8 to 80. The idea being that if we design our roads in our cities to accommodate 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds, everyone in between will feel comfortable and safe. Gil will be addressing the crowd, and afterward, we'll have a panel of local dignitaries participating in a discussion about what safety improvements can be made and any safety issues that they've noticed that they would like for planning staff, construction teams, public works to address in the future. It'll be a very robust conversation, no technical experience necessary to participate in that. D, our next TPO meeting will be the evening of October 16th at 6 p.m. in the second floor boardroom. If you haven't already received it, we'll be sending out a calendar invite to remind you. Similar to how we conducted the tip hearing, we'll be providing food and drinks for each of you because that could potentially be another long night. So if your sandwich order has changed from June, please reach out to Gail, Cheryl, or myself, and we'll make that update. Lastly, on Wednesday, September 4th, and this item isn't on the agenda cover page, on Wednesday, September 4th, TPO staff attended the BOCC regular meeting. We were present, but we were not asked to speak by the board. The chair, Commissioner Hagan, requested a report describing the conversations that have taken place and the progress that was made about the Fort Hamer interchange. Although we were not asked to speak, I worked with county staff to prepare that report, and we essentially just shared that at the August meeting, the board took action to move the Fort Hamer interchange into the unfunded needs list, and that was the extent of the report. I'm not sure if follow-up's necessary, but just wanted to give you all that information if you're tracking it. That's it from me, unless you all have any questions.
Thank you. Board members, are there questions for Dr. Wong? Okay, seeing none, is there any old business or new business, board members?
I have a request for, I know some of the county commission people are not here, but for the county commission, the city's submitted a request to the county for a prioritization list of roads that, from our perspective, we kind of would, I think the city would like to get from the county a list of what y'all are proposing for road improvements within the city of Tampa. So sometimes I just kind of drop that, you guys, in yours. I said I'm going to be here with you guys today, so I figured I would drop it in your ear if you get like a priority list from you guys on what you're going to do in the city for the 2025.
Commissioner Wastel.
I'll just, so the general public understands, there's a very old lawsuit and settlement agreement essentially where the county still owns and maintains about 27 to 28 roads within the city of Tampa, some entirely within the city of Tampa, and I'm personally working on items to work with the city to bring those up to a standard that's agreeable and execute quick claim deeds so that way that there's less confusion for our constituents on who is accountable and there's not finger pointing when people simply want their sidewalk or pothole fixed. So it's something that we're moving forward, and I do believe they already have, Dr. Wong, a report on which ones are going to be improved.
Very good. Other old business or new business? Councilmember Hurtak, I know you're virtual today. I'm assuming that if you had something, you would raise your hand. And I don't see.
Correct. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no other business to come before the board, we will stand adjourned. Have a great day, everybody.